And you know, when I came back to Mascenic, I don't know how many, who knows how many years later, it was a bunch. They had put in a track, but it was stone dust. They had sunk some markers in, but they'd all half come out, and you know, there's grass growing on it. I actually contemplated, you know, setting this thing up in a PowerPoint, and that didn't really suit my style. I was going to show you pictures of the track. It's currently, obviously, under snow right now, but we've got some awesome footage of it early April where it's under this much, you know, water and stuff like that. So those are obviously not fantastic training facility or anything like that. Over time, I've come to love it. Actually, Lance has been up there for our meets. We do a throwback meet that I'll talk about a little later. And I think in some ways, the fact that I didn't have facilities actually led to some of the success that we see now, because we don't rely on some of the standard things that you might fall victim to because you can. If it's a rainy day and you can't really do what you wanted to otherwise, oh, we'll go on the track and we'll rip some repeats or something. We can't do that, it's just not available. Our track also, I probably should mention that, our track, we don't even, for spring track, we don't even plan on getting on it until after April vacation. It's just too soft. The frost's still coming out of the ground, and the maintenance crew is trying to prepare it for our early May meet, which means that they go in there and they drag it and all this other stuff, and it takes about 2 weeks to set up hard enough to be really useful for that. And then it goes soft again kind of at the beginning of October. You know, because the grass has stopped absorbing water, it just gets real mushy and stuff like that. So we have a very short window that we can use it. So we don't even plan on it really. We probably are on the track, on our track, just a couple of times, and half the time it's loaded with grass. It's like running on grass anyways. You just know how far you're running, which is kind of nice. And when I started, I was kind of resentful of the fact that here we are, we don't have facilities. How the heck am I going to build a good program if we just don't have what you think is necessary to do it? But in the long run, I think that not having the facilities has actually made me, one, a better coach, because I have to pay attention a little bit more. I don't have to rely on the watch and stuff like that. And I think in many cases, because you're less prone to turn to the track, you've got to come up with different ideas to get the same benefit. And because of that, I think my athletes come out a little bit more resilient and certainly less injured. So I'm just going to run through like cross-country, indoor and outdoor, how we do it, so that you can see some examples of how do you operate when you don't have the facilities that everybody thinks you need for a good program. We have no track, so speed, we don't worry about speed. We don't focus on speed. I know that kind of sounds silly, like how are you going to run fast if you don't focus on speed? But I'm a big believer that the stronger your athletes are, that when it's time to turn to get them to run fast, they have all the tools, they're not going to get injured, and you know, with a little bit of coaxing here and there, maybe through your track schedule or whatever, they're going to get fast and they're going to be able to run fast. One of the other things, while we don't have a track, we have plenty of hills. Our school sits on the top of a hill. You go off one side, it's a mile to the bottom. You go off the other side, it's 2.5 miles to the bottom. So no matter what we do, whether it's an easy run or not, you end up coming back up the hill. So hills are definitively something that we do. On top of that, every week during the season, starting at the beginning of the season and running right through until the Belmont Invitational. We don't run hills on the week of the Belmont Invitational because we don't need to. Belmont Invitational's got plenty of hills on it already. So that's kind of the way we do that. And then after that, once we get past the Belmont Invite, I mean, we still got to come up Mascenic Hill, but at the same time, we don't focus on running any hill work at that point. One of the things that I think that I feel is important in any high school program, but specifically ours, is I want to make sure that my kids are ready for the transition from high school to college. I don't want to try to squeeze every ounce of their speed out of them while they're juniors and seniors. I want to make sure there's more to come when things happen later. The other thing that we do is during the season, we implement like every phase of what we're going to do all season long from the start. I know some people, they sit there and, okay, we got our base work, and then we're going to do strength work, and then we're going to focus on developing speed. And we have a program that's laid out intrinsically like that. But early in our program, we'll have the kids doing pace work. We usually start with like 300 meters, and we'll have them do that just so that they're learning the process right off the bat. You can't really ask a kid when it's time, okay, you're gonna start working on the fast part of running in the season. You can't really ask them to do good workouts if they don't know what the heck they're doing. So we start real early with that. We don't really expect much out of it, but we do start early with that. We do a lot of tempo-based stuff. Now, it's, any good coach will tell you that they do tempo-based stuff. I couldn't possibly tell you, like I don't know any splits or anything like that. Because, to me, especially when you're talking about a hilly area that we're running, you gotta throw times right out the window. It's really an effort, and if you teach the kids to run by effort, you're gonna get more out of it. Plus, if you send kids out on a tempo run, your fast guy's gonna be running easy, your middle guys might be running tempo, and then the guys towards the back are gonna be busting their butts. So you only got like 1 or 2 guys that are actually getting out of it. We do a lot of short segment stuff with active recovery. We always do active recovery. There's never stand in place for 60 seconds and go again. Always, always, always run. I tell the kids, I don't know if it's just psychological or what, I always tell the kids, why would you stand around in your recovery? You don't get to do that during a race. It's not like you run hard for 300 meters and you sit on the bench and wait for a minute and then go again. That's not how you race. Why would you train that way? We did a video that was on New Hampshire cross country. We start the very first day, and I know this kind of sounds weird, almost sounds tyrannical, but we start the very first day, 10 o'clock in the morning of cross country season with a 10-lap time trial. Put them on the track. They have some parameters though. Their 10-lap time trial is they're going to run 3 minutes hard, 3 minutes recovery, and they're going to do that until they're done for 10 laps. Does a couple of things. For me as a coach and for the kids individually, when you're basically doing an over-under, so they're not really running, you sit there and say 2.5 miles, are you crazy? They're not running 2.5 miles hard, they're running half of 2.5 miles hard. And it's an over-under, they get their recovery in there, and it's a 1-to-1 recovery, so it's not that hard for them. What it does for me is it tells me how good a shape are they in. It's great if you think a kid's going to be a 17-minute guy or a 16-minute guy, or a girl's going to be, 22-minute, or whatever the case may be, based on what they ran last cross-country season or in the spring. But if they didn't do anything over the summer, and all of a sudden you're going to train them as a 20-minute 5K, and they're not in anywhere near 20-minute shape, you're really going to be trying to train them faster than they can run, and that's actually going to be detrimental to them. So it shows me where the kids are at. It also shows me who I can throw into groups together to train, and that can be life-saving for the kids themselves. And then for the kids that actually did their work over the summer, it shows everybody else that they've done their work, and that that the hard work that they've done is kind of paying off. So we do that right off the bat. The other thing is it's the first day of practice, so you're not going to take your returning kids that can go out and run for an hour and a half solid in with kids that are just coming out. But if I do this workout right off the bat and then invite everybody back at 2 o'clock, they all can go out and run together. You don't have to, you got your whole team running together. We do a lot of negative split runs where I tell them you're going to go out for 50 minutes at 25, turn around, just make sure you're back before the clock strikes 50. We do a lot of that. That's kind of allows them to run tempo fairly controlled. Maybe call it an easy tempo run, but inevitably, when I look what I'm trying to get out of that, I want the kids to be able to run faster or stronger in the second half of that run than they do in the first, and it makes them focus for 25 minutes or so.
Are your roads such that you can truly send them out for 25 minutes without them risking life and limb?
Whenever we do, but when I say negative split run, that means we're going one direction. We do have a lot of traffic on our roads, and I'll get to that to indoor because we get really kind of shut down and stuff. But during the cross-country season, we can get down, and then we got one road that's relatively flat. It's where we do all our flat work when we can't use the track. And so they'll go out that way and then turn around. The other thing is they got to realize they got to still come up Mascenic Hill no matter what. And so they do have to be focused on that second half of the run in order to get in under 50. And if, you know, again, if they go out in 25 and they come back in 49, 59, I'm happy with that. That's all we're looking to get out of that. And it's kind of a safety valve, again, to make sure that they don't overdo it. And they're getting a 50-minute run in as well. I mean, otherwise you warm them up for 10 minutes, you give them a 20-minute tempo run, now you only got 40. That's the way I look at it. Sometimes we do buddy runs where we'll stick them together. If this is a lighter workout, we call them 10-second buddy runs. They'll go out as a group nice and easy. They can go out in groups or in just two. Go out and one guy drops off for 10 seconds and then just strongly works his way back to the group. Again, a way to control, they can get a little bit of speed and a little bit of tempo work without going to the well, making sure that they don't go to the well. Because I think that's always, you know, for me as a coach anyways, I don't want them working too hard. I want them working hard enough. And it just controls. That's a little bit of control. We don't really do speed work. Again, we don't have a track. We do a lot of pace work. We do at pace work. Whenever we're doing pace work, we've got a chart that just works out that, you know, that we have it listed out for the different distances, what they should. We base everything off their goal pace. You know, so if they ran 17:30 last year, they put in a good summer, they might be going at 16:30 this year or 16 or something like that. And all of their workouts will be at that pace. I want them to learn. I want their body to automatically go to the pace that we want them to run later on. We'll do pace work up to 1200. We stay away from the mile. I don't necessarily think there's anything inherently wrong with mile repeats. I think the problem with mile repeats is everybody knows what their mile PR is and they chase it. And you know, if they can run 5:05 for the mile and you want them to run 5:35 because that's goal pace, they're gonna run 5:20, 5:25, and that really is not getting them anywhere. They're running a little bit too hard for what you're trying to do. And we never run any 400s, none, ever. Again, because they kind of focus on that, well, okay, I can do a lap in this and stuff like that. So we'll run 300s, we'll run 500s, we'll run 800s. Stuff that they know less, nobody knows what their 500 meter PR is, so it's perfect. You give them a time, they run the time, all right? Whenever we do this, and the way I structure it, I've got different groups based on both speed and volume. You know, so they'll all be doing the same workout. Nobody does different workouts. However, they do different numbers at different speeds and stuff like that. Whatever it is, if they're running 8, 10, 12, I always give them the opportunity to rip on the last couple. The big thing is I tell them they have to be smooth. I can't see them struggle, or I'm going to pull them and stuff like that. Kids hate it when you pull them off reps. If they want off reps, they get off reps on their own. But when you pull them, they get mad. You do that a couple of times, they learn to behave. I said we don't really do any speed work because we don't have a track, and you know, our track can be off by a couple of seconds. If you were doing a 400, which we don't, at 300 you could probably be off 3 seconds. And that's pretty huge. And that's just based on whether or not they recently dragged the track and it's soft, whether it's wet, a number of things. So we try not to worry too much about that. We will, however, if we end up at some place that has a track, we may, you know, race and then they go out on cool down, we put them back on the track for a couple 200s right at what we're looking for so that we can be very precise. We do that a lot more in the track season, but we may do that. We don't do it a lot. We do have a couple workouts where we go borrow another track. Our kids, we didn't do it this year, but the day after divisionals, or not the day, the Tuesday after divisionals, we usually go over to Nashua South. We get on the course and stuff like that. And in the past, we've run 6x200, 200-meter recovery, again, right at race pace, using their track so the kids can feel that speed. We've got a reasonable deal with the next door neighbor, Conan, and you know, I'll ask them in advance, hey, can we go use your track? We're trying to get X, Y, and Z done. Yep, okay, fine. Our 10-lap time trial, we don't do that on the dirt track, we do that on their track. And then the one other thing that we do that I would say is it would count as speed work is we go down the week of divisionals. On that Monday, we go down onto River Road, which again is our flattest road. It's not flat, but it's our flattest road. And we had a guy way back when mark out the road with the same wheels that they use to certify road races. And so we have half mile increments laid out on that road. We know pretty precise, and I tell them, you guys are gonna run, my top guys will run, they'll run a mile hard, and then they'll jog 800, then they'll run a crisp 800, jog 800, run another crisp 800, with no real pacing in mind. I let them rip the mile, but I tell them they can't check their watches. You know, I'll be there to start it, I'll be there to finish it, no checking your watches. I don't want them to know how fast they're running. And I'll let them rip, because they train really, really hard, and this is their opportunity to see how much fitness they gain. This season alone, on that Monday, they went 427, 434, 446, 447, 456, 501, 516. That was my top 7. A lot of PRs. I think over half of them were PRs. Actually, probably, I think it's 6 out of 7 were PRs. That's counting the track. We do that not necessarily so much as a workout, but so that they can realize going into divisions, we're ready, we're fast. And so they do that. And then again, if you think, yeah, that they're ripping pretty hard and we're right out for D3s, but to be fair, we're kind of peaking, we're trying to peak for meter champions. It's almost cost us divisionals possibly this year because Campbell was tracking us pretty good. But we'll do that, and like I said, and then after that the 800s, I don't care what they do, it's just by feel. We want them to feel like they're fast, and again, at that point on our dirt track, they're not going to feel fast, so we got to put them somewhere that they can do it. Most of our stuff unfortunately ends up on the roads. We don't have a great trail system. The kids go out on the trails, lots of times they come back beat up, so I get real nervous, especially as we get closer to the divisionals when they go out on the trails. We don't really run anything, you know, when we're doing our measured stuff, we go by distance, but I never worry about how far they're running. Everything we do is by time. So if I wanted to get a long run in, their long run might be 90 minutes. Doesn't matter to me how far they go, really. The guys that are good are going to make sure that they're running plenty. But when if you send everybody out on a 7-mile run, some people that's easy, some people that's going to be death. They're not getting the same workout in. If you go by time, everybody's basically getting the same work. We never really used to use our course for workouts at all. We have a pretty nice course at this point. They built a new elementary school, and we've got a 1.5-mile loop that makes up our course. And some of it allows for some pretty fast running. So we've started moving some of our workouts on there, especially every season right before school starts, they get out and they redo the track because all the grass has grown in and it looks bad. And pretty soon they're going to have parents up there to watch soccer games. So they don't want to have grass growing in the track so that the soccer parents can see how bad the track is. That usually means that I have about 2 weeks that I can't use it anyways. This year, because of the way that the fall was, we weren't able to use it for 5 weeks before it set up solid. So we had to turn some of our stuff onto the course. And I think that actually has worked out good. We never race our course, but we do continuous 800s on there, 500s and 300s. We've got marks, we know where they are now. Those are things that we may have done on the track. And again, the track is half grass anyways, but it's something that we've now moved onto the course because we don't have to worry about whether or not the soccer team has a game or anything like that. So that's cross-country season. Anytime, if anybody's any questions, don't wait, just ask. All right. We view indoor track as just a bridge to outdoor. We don't have an opportunity to get on any good facilities for training. Normally we get about 2 weeks in before we have to pull the kids from the roads. It looks like that we might not be able to go out on the roads at all this year. If the snow sticks around, once the snow comes up on the edges, our school's on the most heavily trafficked section of town, and I'm just not putting a group of kids out on the road while it's getting dark and all that, so we won't do that. You know, if there's no snow, we can kind of sneak away with it for a little while, but once we have snow, we're stuck to the parking lot and our inside hallways. We have the luxury that we have a rectangular hallway structure with the inside corners curved. So you can actually run an oval. you're skinning the inside corner and then up against the lockers on the other side and coming back, but you can do it. And we found that we can run repeats up to 1,000 pace. After you go faster than that, you're bouncing off lockers and stuff like that. So we actually only practice twice a week during the indoor season. The reason is, if you can't get out on the roads, what are you going to do? You're going to do repeat. We got a 1.1 mile loop that we can do within our campus in the parking lot, but it wouldn't be too long before your distance hounds are shooting themselves in the head because they're going mental. So we practice only 2 days a week. Tuesdays are our tempo days, Thursdays are our speed days. The rest of the time, the reason we don't practice is because if I don't have practice, they can go run wherever the hell they want, okay? And so sometimes even they'll leave from the school on a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday, but it's not practice, okay? Not ideal. But again, if you got like, we tend to have distance-orientated kids, you're not gonna have them do that many repeats, and you just can't do it. And so by not having practice, I actually allow the kids to get more mileage. On our speed day, or on our pace day, which is Thursdays this year, we actually have morning practice, 6 o'clock. And I've been very surprised by how well attended our 6 o'clock practice is. The kids realize no one's in the hall, they've got from 6 to 7 where they can have a super solid practice. So we are super efficient, we concentrate on exactly what pace they're looking to run for their events, and that's how we do it. Thursday afternoons this year, we actually do strength and mobility sessions, about 45 minutes long, where we just work on range of motion stuff and things like that that you don't get when you're running circles in the hallway and stuff like that. Other things that we do, we have other running opportunities around town. We have a bunch of adults that go on headlamp runs on Thursday nights. Some of our kids do that. We have a youth programming that we do after school that some of our high schools will come out and kind of help with just to add some more mileage. We got weekend long runs and local races. We have a race series that's local that we encourage the kids to do almost as much as indoor, because as long as they're running, it's benefiting them, and that's what we're really looking for out of our indoor season. Indoor ends early February for pretty much everybody, unless they're making it to New England. And when that happens, I offer up a half marathon training to anybody that's interested, training program. And right before outdoor season, we host our own half marathon. It starts at my house, finishes at my house. We have about 40 or 50 people that take part in it, and it's just like this great big group run. But I found it doesn't even matter if you've got, so I don't know how many high schoolers run half marathons, not too many. But if you convince the kids to train for a half marathon, that's a whole month and a half that they have plans for training, that they wouldn't have plans for training otherwise. A half marathon might seem like a lot, but if they're not really running that hard, they can all do it. And we probably had, I don't know, I probably had a dozen or more high schoolers actually go out and run the half marathon. The other thing is if they do it, one of the things I tell them, you guys, you do this and you run the half marathon, you're never going to get tired of track. There's nothing you can possibly do at track that's going to tire you out. And whether or not that's true, they believe you, and it works out to your advantage as well. So that's kind of how we get through indoor. Again, outdoor track, we don't have any track